Well, hey y'all, I'm Lori and this is Faith-Based Birthing. I am so excited that you are here, and today I am going to share one of my birth stories, my first actually. And so hopefully this offers you some encouragement. This is really a space where we want to have a lot of positive birth stories for you to listen to. I know when I first got pregnant, well, every time I've been pregnant, all anybody wants to do is tell me all of their horrid birth stories and how horrible everything went. And you know what? That's the case for some people because certain things happen or there are certain medical conditions that need to be considered, but that's not the case for everybody, and you need to hear those stories that it's not the case for everybody for. So I want to share my birth stories with you, and hopefully it will encourage you. So this is just my birth story, it's nothing else, and feel free to post any questions that you have. I'm happy to answer them. If you've not checked out our community, we have an online community on Facebook right now called Faith-Based Birthing, so you can look us up there. And we have amazing expert contributors that give you all kinds of information, as well as moms who share their journeys with pregnancy, birth, postpartum, breastfeeding, baby wearing, all kinds of awesome stuff. So anyway, check us out there. But the story of my first birth, I ended up going late. So I was going to the doctor. I was doing cervical checks and all that at that time. And they were going, oh my goodness, let me tell you, you are already at a 1 and you're 60% effaced. Girl, you're gonna be going soon, you know. Fast forward to the next week. You are at a 2 and you're 80% effaced. I'll see you in here next week. And so they're telling me this, and I'm in turn telling my family this. And so everybody's just so expectant, and we're expecting it to go right then, just any day now. I'm gonna go and have this baby. Y'all, he didn't come till like 41 plus 5. I was late. Kid did not get the memo. But let me say, I was late according to their timeline, not necessarily when I thought that I had conceived and what the timeline would be. So birth was actually closer to my timeline. But what it did in that was stress me out massively. So if you're a provider and happen to be watching this, please don't do that to women. Please don't do it to women. But I had family texting me, hey, any signs yet? Anything going on yet? And it was driving me crazy. I finally handed my husband my phone and said, you're gonna have to take over with this because I can't deal with these people. Y'all, I did everything. I went and walked circles around Home Depot. I, walked up and down hills. We live on a farm, so we have like a hill in Tennessee, all right? And I walked up and down that hill every day as much as I could. But anyway, so fast forward. I ended up with my water breaking first. Now, I did not anticipate that. A very few percent of women, like 10%, some say 15%, but a very few percent of women actually have their water break first before they go into labor. I was one of those women, leave it to me to be different, right? So I had this long plan that I would labor at home in the bath, and it just didn't work out for me. And I woke up in the bed and I was like, oh, what was that pop? Ran to the bathroom, gush water. Now, what you need to know about your water breaking first is if it does, it will keep gushing. I actually learned that from someone who was telling me their horrid birth story. But what I took away from it is that your water keeps gushing after that happens. So have you some Depends, have you some underwear with pads that you like. I personally like the Depends, but I wasn't prepared for that time around. So my water kept gushing, I kept making a mess. I put on the jeans that I was gonna wear to the hospital, and gush of water, boom, ruined them. And my only other, pair of maternity jeans that I had at that point was in the washer. I had to wait on something to get dry so that I could wear maternity clothes to the hospital. I went ahead, took a shower, said I'm gonna eat first because once I get to the hospital, they're not gonna let me eat. And took a shower, shaved my legs. Yes, I am one of those girls, sorry. I'm not usually that high maintenance, but I was shaving my legs before I went, for anybody to hold on to them while I was pushing. I didn't want to sandpaper anybody, but whatever. We got to the hospital around 4:30, and you have to walk in through the emergency room all the way up to the labor and delivery floor, which was a fun journey. I was walking and stopping in between contractions like, okay, hold on, now we can go. All right. So that was happening, and my contractions were about, 5 minutes apart at that point. We got there, got checked in, and they checked me to make sure that my water had broken. It had. They said that I was about at a 6 at that point. So I was encouraged, I was excited because I was already at a 6 at that point. I had some preferences. I had a birth plan that I had put out there, and I had some nurses that wanted to fight me on that. So once I got to the hospital, my progress actually slowed down a little bit because I just walked into a stressful environment, something that wasn't comfortable for me. I was having a lot of pushback from some of the nurses that were there. And when that happens, there is a chemical response in your body where it'll just withdraw, and so it won't actually go through what it needs to. Anyway, that's another story for another time. We'll talk about that later. But so my progress stalled a little bit. They didn't want to do the intermittent monitoring for me. Well, I was supposed to do mobile monitoring. Their mobile monitors were dead. So they said, well, sweetie, you're just going to have to keep the monitor on and stay in the bed. And I said, no. I will stay mobile. That is in my birth plan. And you guys can figure out how to monitor me because that's just how it's going to be. So I had to fight with them about that. They agreed to it, finally. Then I wanted a birthing ball. They said they couldn't find the birthing ball. So, I mean, it was just a lot of uncomfortable stuff. Thank goodness they had shift change because I can't imagine what would have happened with the rest of my time there. So I got an amazing nurse whose name was Lori as well, actually. And she was fantastic. She read my birth plan. She went through everything that I wanted, and she really supported me in it. She found a birthing ball. She said, look, here's what we can do for your intermittent monitoring, and you can stay mobile this way. One of the hardest things about being at the hospital with my water already broken and staying mobile, I didn't have like Depends, and the gauzy underwear that they gave me with the pads just wasn't really enough to keep up with the water gush, and they were uncomfortable and itchy, and I didn't like that. So I was making a mess like everywhere that I went. Because I was squatting with contractions that felt comfortable to me, and on the birth ball, when she finally found it, I would roll into a contraction that felt comfortable to me. And so I was just making a mess, and it was hard to keep that cleaned up. That's TMI probably, but I'm just being real. As contractions would come, I can honestly say that they were not that painful. Some of them felt like period cramps on steroids is the best way I can describe it. But it was more pressure than cramp, if that makes sense. In all seriousness, it was not excruciating pain for me, just to be real. People say, oh, well, you just have a high pain tolerance. You know what? I do have a high pain tolerance, I'll admit that, but I also scream like a baby when I stump my toe. I had prepared myself through some exercises and mentally just how to get through what a contraction might be like, and I'll talk about that in another video too. So that's what contractions were like for me. So I labored like that, being mobile for a little while, and that until about 12, I guess. And so she came in, she checked me, and she said, you know what, you're like at a 9.5, you're probably at a 10, but you have a swelling on your cervix. And so I need you to lay down. If you can lay down on your left side for about 30 minutes, that swelling will go away. Y'all, that was the most uncomfortable part of my labor ever. It convinced me 100% that women are not made to lay down during labor. I will tell you that right now. But laying down was the most painful part. That was pain. That was serious pain, y'all. That was my level 11 of what I thought pain was, and I've had some pain. But anyway, after 30 minutes, the swelling was down. She said, all right, you're ready to push. Let's get going. So the doctor comes in. We're ready to push. I didn't know yet about fur, and then I didn't have to push, but we'll talk about that later too. I'm pushing, and I feel him come down and then go back up. And I feel him come down and go back up. And I was like, what in the world is going on? You know, and I'm pushing pretty good, I think. But again, I'm a first-time mom. So I changed positions. They wouldn't let me get off the bed, but I changed positions on the bed. I'm on my knees. I'm hanging over the back of the bed. I'm trying to push, and I'm just not getting anywhere. So finally, the doctor says, you know what? I think if you'll let me cut you, then he'll be out in a couple of pushes. Either that, or we're going to have to do a C-section, Lori. Well, I knew I didn't want a C-section, and so I gave on the episiotomy. The episiotomy was something that I didn't want, but I gave on it because I didn't want the risk of a C-section. So I felt it. He was crowning. He was coming out. Honestly, even the crowning wasn't that bad. So as I felt him crowning, we had watched a video. This is a fun little story. We had watched a video of a mom explaining crowning, and she said it felt like the Ring of Fire. And in the background, like she had, you know, I fell into a burning ring of fire. Anyway, so I started singing that in labor, and all the nurses and the doctor looked at my husband like, what is she doing? But it was a joke with he and I, and it was good for that moment for us in labor. But anyway, and so his head went ahead and came out, and then I felt, you know, with the next push, the rest of him came out. And that was the other thing, is I was able to tell them when a contraction was pushing. Y'all, most of the time they have women laying there who have an epidural. They're going to tell you when a contraction was coming. And so I would tell them before a contraction was coming, and they were looking at the monitor and they'd go, oh yeah, you're right. Well, I know I'm right. It's my body. I can feel it. But anyway, so I'm telling them, all right, next one's coming, you know, here we go. And they'll say, all right, with the next one, you know, his shoulders are going to be out, and then he's going to be out. He came out. The doctor, you know, handed him up to me. I put him on my chest, and his eyes were wide open. He was looking around. He was trying to hold his head up. And I was like, this is a big baby. I had no clue at that point. I was like, this is a big baby. Wow. You know, I'm surprised he's so alert. And he's looking around. And so we laid there with skin to skin for a little while. And then they took him and weighed him. Like 3 of the nurses went, no way. And I was like, what's wrong with, is he okay? What's wrong with him? And they said, 10 pounds, 5 ounces. And I was like, wait, what? And they said, yeah, girl, you just about birthed a 10-pound baby. I was like, no. But for sure, I have a picture of it for confirmation. He was 10 pounds, 5 ounces. It was crazy. And I'm so glad we didn't know, because had we known, they would have pushed for a C-section. And I was smaller than I am now, y'all. So all those mamas out there that they're telling you your baby is big, just know from someone who's done it, you can do it. There's strong encouragement in that, okay? But anyway, he came back on my chest and nursed for like an hour straight. The grandparents were going, hey, when can we come in and see him? You know, but it was an amazing birth experience. And I hope that offers you some encouragement. If you have any questions, post them below. Let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. But know that you can fight for what you want for your birth experience. And y'all, I chose natural birth, not for the whole natural birth reasons. I had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis years earlier, and I didn't want an epidural because my extremities are affected. And I didn't know what would happen in that. But anyway, so if you have questions, let me know. And again, if you've not found our community on Facebook, go and find it and join Faith-Based Birthing. And it's a great community of women who share their stories, who share their experiences. And I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye.